Hi, I want to do a book review on The People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry. I just finished this maybe 5 minutes ago, and I have a lot of thoughts, and a lot of them are positive because I am just completely enchanted with the ending of this story. I think it has a really strong second half, and the end just makes it that much sweeter. And my opinions kind of flip flopped throughout my read of this book, and I'm going to explain that. First, I got to be honest, I got a little teary eyed towards the end. I am such a big softie when it comes to romances, especially when, you know, the couple has that big speech. Like, you think of any major romantic comedy, and there's just that heart swelling moment, that climactic moment in the love story where one person just puts their entire heart out on their sleeves. The whole dark night of the soul happens, and there's a breakup in communication. And finally, there is that, mad dash through the airport, or, you know, they have to drive halfway across the city in unbearable kind of traffic to deliver this one heartwhelming, speech that's overwrought with like cheesy platitudes, but ultimately they say you are the love of my life and I can't be without you. I can't breathe without you, and all that type of stuff that maybe out of context sounds kind of creepy. But when you're just in that moment of that romantic comedy, it just seems like the most romantic thing that you've ever heard in your entire life. So this book kind of flips that, but there's still that one gigantic speech at the end, and I am mature enough to admit that I cried. So, my thoughts on this book are basically I think it's really strong. I think it's really strong in the second half. That was when it really sold me, and you start getting really to the nitty gritty of Alex and Poppy's relationship. You start to really get inside of Poppy's head and the fears that she has as far as, her career is concerned, about how her life has turned out, and how she just has that sense of emptiness. And one of the things I liked about this book is that both characters at some point end up in therapy. And I like that there's just that much more open dialogue about mental health. And even though the concept seems romantic in theory, it shouldn't be that one person completes you. It shouldn't be that just being in love and being with the love of your life somehow magically makes all the emotional problems that you have in your life and how you deal with circumstance and trauma disappear like that. I think even if therapy isn't the end all be all for everyone, with everyone and their mental health, there's different ways to cope and to deal with the day-to-day life. I do like that both characters were able to acknowledge that, some of my issues should be handled with an actual professional that I can speak with and kind of just figure out my life. And both characters had flaws that made sense, and both of their backstories play into how they show up in the relationship. With Poppy, there is that feeling of constantly running away because she was always in a position to feel that she wasn't enough. And because she was bullied as a kid, it kind of affected her to the point where she would see patterns in her adult life and her relationships where she would constantly be traveling, constantly looking for connection with people outside of her hometown or New York, where she resided for, this travel professional journalist blogging job, whatever you want to call it. And with Alex having lost his mother when he was really young and having to basically play the role of caretaker in his family of several brothers, and his father, who was obviously dealing with some depression and anxiety after the passing of his wife and Alex's mom. So he had to take the role of being like the parental figure. and that making him afraid of really putting himself out there and always finding fault in women outside of Poppy, and Poppy kind of being that safety net for him, but him also being scared of really being happy in that relationship with her. It just makes sense the more you read in the story why these two people who obviously had so much sexual tension, obviously had this roaring attraction, clearly had a deep love and respect for one another, could never make it work in a relationship. And that's kind of one of the things that really kind of annoys me about friends to lovers type trope stories, is that you as a reader will read it and it becomes glaringly obvious that these two people obviously want to be together, and it's like, what's the big deal? Like, get over it, just get in the relationship. It doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But Henry does a really great job in breaking down why each character feels the way they do, and everything kind of comes together and comes to a head. She also did something really cool in the sense that, I was like 80% into the book, and it seemed like the big conflict that usually happens in these romantic comedies happened. And then I thought, whew, great, we're over that. Now we can just have them being all lovey-dovey, only for the real conflict to kick in almost like at the 90% mark, which was really blowing my mind. But there were some really gorgeous passages in this book. Let me just read out other quote that I just have to say. Again, out of context, it may not seem that romantic, but to me, that was when my heart felt like it was squeezing. Let me read it. But this is the moment I first think it. I am in love with you. The thought is terrifying, probably not even true, a dangerous idea to entertain. I release my hold on it, watch it slip away. But there are points in the center of my palms that burn, scorched. Proof I once held it there. And that like floored me. And that's like at the 62% mark. I absolutely love the book. There were parts of it in the beginning that I thought were kind of slow, but it's absolutely a character-driven romance, and a lot of romance books are. You kind of have to be character-driven because you have to fall in love with the characters to want to care about them actually being together. And with this one, I was really enticed by Emily Henry's writing style. Her voice is really strong, and she's clearly really witty, and she's got a great sense of humor. And both character voices were really distinct to me. I did get confused between flashbacks. Sometimes I forget whether we were in a flashback moment or we're in a present day moment, because the story narrative kind of alternates between the 12 years of their friendship and it growing, and also having that undercurrent of sexual tension and all the partners that they were with that kind of awkwardly sense that these two were really into each other. But there were points where it would get kind of slow, and around the 40% mark, I was starting to think, you know what, maybe I'm not going to enjoy this as much as I thought I would, and maybe I bought into the hype of the book. But then I crossed the 50% threshold, and you really start to dig in deeper into the relationship dynamic, and then there's just some really beautiful passages. Overall, it's just super romantic, and I'm gonna be honest, I adored it. I adored it. I'm debating whether I want to buy a physical copy of it or not, and I'm also debating if I want to try Beach Read. For anyone who's watched this video and has gone to this point, if you have read Beach Read, please let me know how it was, because I'm thinking I might want to give it a shot as well. I don't know if it's gonna live up to this one, but I know that Beach Read had a lot of hype, but this one had even more hype, and I decided to go for this one first. And I'm really happy that I ended up reading it because it is super romantic and lovey-dovey, and I feel kind of embarrassed that this is the second book I've cried after in recent memory. Also, Instructions for Dancing by Nicole Yoon made me sob up, so I think I'm going to switch gears, either go to something super fluffy and lighthearted or go read a thriller. Adult or young adult, I don't care. But I don't want to cry anymore after a book, okay? I'm done with that. But People We Meet on Vacation, fantastic book. This review probably made absolutely no sense and it's probably far too long, but I loved it. That's what you need to know. Thank you for watching. Peace.